I'm Melaney Robins. I'm number 40 on the Wave Tour, and I'm about 8 miles north of Gimli in the little community of Arnes. My studio is like nestled nicely into a wooded area, which has been extremely important to me over the years. Artists are visual people, so a simple glance out the window and I'm back on track. I'm constantly inspired and motivated by my surroundings. I have been interested in a variety of media over the years. I'm primarily a watercolor painter, but there's been a shift over the years to anything water-based. So by that I would mean watercolor is probably my most comfortable medium, but along with that I'm adding ink or liquid acrylics. I've worked with encaustics, and often I mix them all up. I'm finding that the meaningful times with my guests on the Wave Tour have to do with the experiences I bring to them with my work and the experiences they bring when they walk in the door and they might see a piece and they'll stop and they will say, well, you know, this, and it often begins with this reminds me of, and they begin their story. And then I respond quite often with, well, let me tell you about this piece, and this is my story. And we can often meet nicely in the middle. I have been so inspired, as I mentioned, by nature, but I would like to broaden that statement to say, I think my inspiration comes from experiences, all of life's experiences. So although I do tend to work a lot in landscapes, I will often introduce other aspects which are just color or texture or shapes. And I think all life's experiences come into play. I've traveled a lot, and very, very frequently when I'm sitting down at the table and starting on a piece, some little memory comes back to something I've seen somewhere else in the world. I'm going, oh, well, that one reminds me of, and if I can introduce a tiny piece of that experience, I think that's important. A current focus has been working with collage, and it mixes the mediums up. There would be some watercolor, and here's an example of a piece. That's a floral, but it is really a mixture of watercolor, dyed papers, and acrylics. And I love the technique. It's a bit like doing a puzzle. So I would start with a large piece of tissue paper that I've crinkled up and opened up, and I've dyed it. And it becomes my palette, and it will be something like this. And when I look at it, I try to identify some kind of a shape that feels like I can move ahead. Then that becomes my subject. Sometimes I find fish, trees, people. It really depends. But I look for what's happening, and I consider it an underpainting. When I found that, I begin to prepare the surface, and I really just start tearing away, sometimes cutting. I try not to use the scissors too much, keep the edges nice and irregular. And I stick it on down to my surface and build on it until I feel like I have all the tissues in place. And that's when I might come in. The background would have some watercolor in it. That's when I'll come in with acrylic with my brush, and I'll just kind of like add in some little areas that sort of further the subject, the understanding of the subject. I like for them to be impressionistic. I'm not looking for an exact replica of nature. In fact, I don't think I've ever painted that way. I'm not a realist, and I like abstract. I would say I'm nicely landed in the middle as an impressionist. I'm Melaney Robins with the Wave Tour. I'm proud to be a member of this fine organization. I'm number 40 on the tour.